everyone, welcome to Briar Haus Writes. I'm Becky Parker, and today it is my honor to be able to have author, playwright, conference speaker, and workshop leader Sandra Asher. Welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thank you. I usually use Sandy Asher for the books and real life and Sandra Fenichel Asher for the plays. And that makes it very confusing. But
Well, Sandy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
okay. Grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and now live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, about 60 miles west of Philly. But there was a long interval in between where I went to college at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana.
Oh,
Met my husband, Harvey, there, who became a history professor at Drury University in Springfield, Missouri. We lived there for 36 years while he taught. And when he retired, he's from New York, I should mention. He was from Brooklyn, I was from Philly, and we had to go out to Bloomington, Indiana to meet one another. Um, and when he retired, we came back east to Lancaster, and we love it here. We have two grown children and three wonderful grandchildren.
so what would you say is the secret to a long and happy, healthy marriage?
Sense of humor, definitely. I think that if we can still laugh at things together,
Then
we'll
you're
be
going to make it till you're
we'll be
92.
okay.
um,
Yes.
well, Sandy, tell me about what actually drew you to being an author, and in particularly a playwright kind of author, because very few people can do
Uh-huh.
that.
I believe I was born that way. I don't remember a time when I was not making up stories and plays and poems. I had a stage struck second grade teacher
Mhm.
who encouraged me. She used to read us bits and pieces of arsenic and old lace. And I don't know if you know that story, but it's about two elderly women who poison elderly men and bury them in their basement. Why she was reading that to second graders, I don't know, but we loved it. She didn't just read it, she acted it out all over the room. And at that time, I started making up plays. I would take a popular song of the day and I'd write a story around it. And then I'd boss my friends around and we'd rehearse and perform for the class. And she actually sent us on tour around the school. So that's where it started. And all the way through school, I remember teachers handing me stories and saying, "Can you make a play for us to do out of this?" And I didn't know it was hard. It was a game. And so I did.
So, were you in drama club in school?
There was no drama club. There were no theater classes all the way through high school. It was more a matter of what I did after school. I took dance class, I took drama lessons, I auditioned for plays around the city, and was quite active in the theater scene. I was on stage when I was 4 years old as a little
Wow.
tiny dancer. Um, so in school, I wrote the senior play where I lampooned all the teachers and the principal and vice principal, and they let me graduate anyway. But it was something I just did naturally because it was fun. It wasn't until I read Little Women and Jo March loved to make up plays and get her sisters to act them out, but aimed at getting paid to write, that I first realized this could be a job. This could be what I do and earn money at it. Yeah.
Are there any topics that you find very challenging to cover when you're writing?
I think they're all challenging. I don't know that there's any particular topic. I tend to take whatever interests me, whatever moves me deeply, kind of fills me up so that I have to share it with someone. I can't keep it to myself. Um, I find that I naturally take the point of view of a young person experiencing the same thing. And so I'm always approaching topics from that angle.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know that a topic itself has defeated me. Sometimes finding the right way to tell a story has defeated me, or at least slowed me up, or, I'm still working on some of them. But if you find the right topic and you care about it and you find the point of view that you can work with to express what you want to say, it works out, with enough rewrites. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people, they have a passion for writing, but they have a very hard time expressing it in words. And in particularly, when you write a play, you're having to do dialogue. So
Hmm.
how does that work for you when you're creating the dialogue?
Well, I think even, when I'm writing stories and books, I'm hearing the characters talk in my head. And it's a matter almost of channeling, just listen to them. What would they say under these circumstances? Sometimes, what might you have said if you were this age in this circumstance? But ideally, you're listening to the characters and letting them almost dictate what they want to say. I find that much easier than writing fiction because with fiction, I also have to describe the scenery and the setting and whatnot.
Mhm.
With a play, I can pretty much concentrate on the dialogue and listening to the characters. Yeah.
Do the characters ever surprise you as to how they will turn out?
Almost always. Almost always. I start out thinking, okay, this is the story I want to tell. I know where it starts. I know where it ends. I kind of know how I'm going to, I don't outline in detail, but I kind of know where I'm trying to go.
Hmm.
And almost every time the characters take over and they have a completely different story they want to tell. And I follow them because they know what they're doing. Yeah.
Sandy, we have the privilege of being able to, in this modern age, be able to use YouTube as a way of getting our stories out. And I believe you have one that you would like to share with our listeners today on YouTube. Do you mind if we go ahead and play that?
Hi, everybody. My name is Sandy Asher. I write books for young readers. This is my dog, Gracie. Gracie is a reading dog. That means she goes to schools and the library and she listens to children read stories, don't you? Yes. Today, she's going to listen to me read a story, and we hope that you will listen along with her. This book is called Too Many Frogs. And you can see on the cover that I wrote it. It says Sandy Asher, but I did not draw the pictures. The pictures were drawn by a man named Keith Graves, and I think he did a terrific job. Too Many Frogs. Rabbit lived by himself in the hollow of an old tree. He cooked for himself, he tidied up after himself, and at the end of each and every day, he read himself a story. It was a simple way of life, no fuss and no clutter. And Rabbit liked it. But one rainy evening, he heard a knockety knocking at his door. "It's Froggy," croaked a deep voice. "Don't care for this storm." Rabbit opened the door. "I was about to read myself a story." "Love to listen," Froggy cried, and hopped right inside. "Don't mind, do you?" "I suppose not," Rabbit said. So Froggy listened while Rabbit read his story. "Well done," Froggy cheered when Rabbit had finished. "Storms ended too. Thanks for your kindness. Toodaloo." The next evening, as usual, Rabbit finished dinner, tidied up, and sat down to read himself a story. But before he could begin, he heard another knockety knocking at his door. "It's Froggy," croaked the same deep voice. Rabbit opened the door. "I was about to read myself a story." "I know," Froggy cried and hopped right inside. "Love to listen. But first, let's fix ourselves a snack. Or 3. Don't mind, do you?" "I suppose not," Rabbit said. So Froggy hopped and popped and whipped and flipped and mixed and fixed a snack or 3. Too much fuss, Rabbit thought. But Froggy listened while Rabbit read his story. "Well done," he cheered when Rabbit had finished. "Snack's gone too. Thanks for your kindness. Toodaloo." The next evening, Rabbit finished dinner, tidied up, and sat down to read himself another story. But before he could begin, there was that same knockety knocking at his door. "It's Froggy," croaked the familiar voice. Rabbit opened the door. "I was about to read," he began. "I know," Froggy cried, and hopped right inside. "About to read yourself a story. Love to listen. But first, let's get ourselves all comfy cozy. Don't mind, do you?" "I suppose not," Rabbit said. So Froggy fluffed and puffed and mooshed and smooshed and piled up billows of pillows. Too much clutter, Rabbit thought. But Froggy listened while Rabbit read his story. "Well done," he cheered when Rabbit had finished. "Bedtime too. Thanks for your kindness. Toodaloo." The next evening, Rabbit finished dinner, tidied up, and sat down to read himself a new story. But before he could begin, there was that knockety knocking at his door. "It's Froggy." Rabbit opened the door. "I know," Froggy cried before Rabbit could say a single word. "You are about to read yourself a story. Love to listen. But first, meet the family. Been telling them all about you and your stories. Love to join us. Don't mind, do you?" Rabbit looked at Froggy's family. Big frogs and little frogs, dozens and dozens, all wearing t-shirts. Frog Family Reunion. Too many frogs, he thought. Too much fuss. Too much clutter. "But I do mind, Froggy," he said at last. "You do?" Froggy asked. "I never invited you in," Rabbit explained. "I never invited you to fix a snack. I never invited you to get all comfy cozy. And I never invited your family to join you. So I do mind, very much indeed." "Uh-oh," Froggy croaked. "This will never do. Thanks for your kindness. Toodaloo." Alone at last, Rabbit sat down to read himself a story. For one anxious moment, he waited for a knockety knocking at his door. It never came. "Don't mind, do you?" he asked himself with a chuckle. Most certainly not. He answered himself and began to read. It was a good story. But something was missing. Snacks make a good story better, he thought. So he fixed himself a snack and read on. It was a very good story, but something was missing. Pillows make a good story better, he thought. So he fluffed himself a pillow and read on. It was an exceptionally good story, but something was still missing. Rabbit blinked once, he blinked twice, and then he sighed. "It's Froggy," he told himself. At last, he loves to listen. Rabbit opened his door. There sat Froggy and his family, waiting patiently to say they were sorry. "Never meant to be rude," Froggy croaked. "Brought you a t-shirt. Frog family reunion." "Thank you," Rabbit said. "I was about to read a story. Would you like to join me?" "Love to listen," cried the frogs. And in they all hopped, big frogs and little frogs, dozens and dozens. Rabbit offered them a snack or three and helped them fluff their pillows. Then every frog listened while Rabbit read his story. "Well done," they cheered when he had finished. So many frogs, Rabbit thought. So much fuss, so much clutter. It was a different way of life, and Rabbit liked it. We hope you liked this story. Thank you for listening.
So you had asked how this all came about. This happened during COVID. Before COVID, Gracie and I used to visit two schools once a week each and the library once a month, and she would listen to children read stories to her. Of course, with COVID, all that went away. But a friend of mine Risa Paskoff, who runs an organization called Aaron's Acres, works with children with all kinds of challenges. And she was doing online programming for these kids who were stuck at home also. And she asked if Gracie and I would read stories and record them so she could use them with her kids. And so that's how we got started as YouTube people and dog. And I ended up doing all of the books. She used them. Libraries have used them. Other teachers have used them, which is a lot of fun. But her theory was that those kids might or might not actually pay attention to the story, but they would pay attention to Gracie. And watching it now, I found myself watching Gracie more than the story or me reading it. So the theory is correct.
And it's a great story,
Okay.
especially how they developed an unusual friendship at the end. And he found that story time was more fun with Froggy and
Yes.
friends, Froggy and
Shared.
family friends. Um, Tell me, Sandy, of all the books that you have written, do you have a favorite and why?
I don't really pick favorites about much of anything. It sort of depends what mood you're in or what your need is at the moment. But I do have to congratulate Rabbit and Froggy because they are coming up on their 20th anniversary in print. Too Many Frogs will be 20 years old on February 5th of this year. So that's quite an accomplishment.
It is, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Sandy, are you a member of any writers groups? And if
I
so,
am.
what's the benefit of that for you?
I am. I am a member of the Authors Guild and of the Dramatists Guild and the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. In fact, I served as a regional advisor for the society and also on the national board for 8 years. As freelance writers, we cannot have unions because we're self-employed. But these organizations keep us in touch with one another. They keep us informed about what's going on in the industry and in the world and with one another. And they fight for our rights. And I think it's just tremendously important to support one another in the arts. And so I do belong to those organizations and have been quite active.
And how do you link into those organizations if you're new to writing?
Well, they all have websites and scbwi.org for people interested in writing for young people. I believe it's authorsguild.com and Dramatists Guild or dramaguild.com, but you can look them up pretty easily. They're not hidden.
And they're on Facebook as well, I'm sure.
I would imagine so, yeah. Yeah.
Sandy, just for fun, what would be your idea of a perfect afternoon?
Any time I thought about this, and any time with my grandchildren is perfect. In an afternoon, it could be anything from baking a cake together to visiting Target, which is a favorite thing for them, or Goodwill because they live in Copenhagen. And so when they come here, there are things you can get at these places that you cannot get overseas. And they have lists from their friends and whatnot. But just being in their presence and doing something they enjoy doing, that's perfect. That's perfection.
When you look ahead in the future, because your book has celebrated, a really remarkable milestone, what do you see the future is going to look like for children and teens when it comes to social issues in, let's say, 50 years?
Well, I wish I knew. I would be really rich and famous if I could predict what's going to happen in 50 years. I cannot predict what's going to happen tomorrow in most cases. One thing that I am sure of is that human beings do not change that much. Our needs, our interests, our loves, our fears, our worries, our way of experiencing those things, even that grief to that pain,
Mhm.
will be the same. We will have technological differences to deal with. But when people wonder how, at my age, I can write for very young people, um, I go back to what is absolutely the same. And that is who we are as human beings. We will always need love. We will always need kindness. There will be people who will deny that to us and people who will stand with us. Those stories are eternal. That will be the same.
I think you could be a prophet because that's true. You absolutely could.
I'll meet you here in 50 years and we'll check it out.
Okay, that sounds good. I love the fact though that you have experience, especially courses in child development,
Mhm.
and you have elementary education certification. I think that leads such a credibility to your writing because you are able to see the different developmental stages of a child and bear that in
Mhm.
mind when you're writing for them. And especially when it comes to concepts, sharing and caring, they may be a little foreign to some. So I love that. Um, Tell us where we can find your work, Sandy.
In all the usual places, online, Amazon and Barnes and Noble and whatnot, but any independent bookseller, and I highly recommend independent booksellers can order the books that are still in print. Some of them are out of print and harder to find, so some of the bigger distributors maybe can find a used copy for you somewhere. As far as the plays, Dramatic Publishing has almost all of them, but there are a few at a new company called Uproar Theatrics. and also youth plays. And of course, you can always go to my website, sandyasher.com, and see how to contact me. And if you have questions, I'll be happy to help you with the search if there's a problem.
And are you currently involved in any new projects coming out? Or did you just complete anything new?
We have, I have a new play out called Mariposa Butterfly that's had 3 tours this past year in different parts of the country, which was co-written with my wonderful colleague Jose Casas. And we decided it could be a effective picture book. It's bilingual. And so we worked on that together, and my agent is shopping it around at this very moment. And I have a video project that I'm working on locally, but it's so early in the process, I don't think I better say anything quite yet.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about that as it moves forward. Well, Sandy, you have been such a great guest, and I thank you so much for all that you do for children in the literary world.
Well, thank you so much. This has been delightful. I appreciate your invitation.